Hello, Katya.
Hello, Christine.
Can you perhaps present a little bit yourself for our audience?
My name is Katya. I'm the DPR citizen, and now I'm a reporter, I'm a journalist in the news front. It's the Russian agency, information agency, and I have been working for it for more than 2 years from the very beginning of their military actions here in Donbass.
Okay, what did you do as a job before the war?
Well, before the war I had a very peaceful and very creative profession, I should admit. I worked as a model. Yes, I played in small musical videos and film even, and nothing dealing with war, nothing dealing with military actions at all.
Wow, how can someone get from, being a model to being a war journalist? That's quite a huge job change. What motivated you to do that change?
I think I had no other choice, because the war, all this military conflict, came to my motherland. And of course I couldn't stay behind, I couldn't hide from it, because it's my motherland, it's my native city, I like it very much. And when I saw these events in Maidan started, yes, it was November 2013, and I remember that I had some inner feeling that this disaster, I thought it's a disaster, could somehow influence my life. Mm-hmm. And when all these actions started, all these protests against Nazi, against Bandera and everything, of course I participated in all these actions and all these events. So I was an activist, firstly, just on the barricades and all the meetings, participating everywhere. And when all this shelling started, I decided to change the profession and become a journalist. And it was accidental, I should admit, because I remember one friend of mine just met me near this administration building, and he asked, "Kate, maybe it's interesting for you to become a journalist, because we need one." I thought, okay, maybe why not? And actually from the 1st of June 2014 I became a journalist. Firstly I was a streamer, then I was just usual reporting, correspondent, yes, and journalist. And now I'm also the head of the, small office here.
The news front.
Yeah, news front office in the DPR.
In the DPR. So you said you participated to the protests here in 2014. So you were an activist. So why did you participate to this protest, and so to these barricades, and so also to the assault against this administration building, which was taken early April 2014? Was it because you were some kind of Kremlin agent paid by Putin?
Well, unfortunately not. I'm not the Kremlin agent. Maybe someone thinks like that, but no. I was just indifferent, from my childhood. I was brought up with the ideas of the Great Patriotic War. All my grandfathers participated in this war. They were heroes, they were rewarded. And I was brought up with this, feeling of love to your motherland, yeah, these patriotic feelings and everything. And when we saw this Maidan craziness, all these bastards, in masks, telling that Russians should be killed, you cannot speak the Russian language, you should, kiss the ass of Bandera and so on, of course, I was, like a rebel, and I thought, what the hell? Why should we, Russian people here, because the eastern part of Ukraine was always Russian, it was a part of the Russian Empire before the revolution. And I thought that it's impossible for us, and millions of people thought like that. There were protests in Kharkov, yes, in Odessa, in all these parts of historical Novorossiya. But here in Donbass, in Donetsk and Lugansk, all these protests were really huge. And all people, I think, awoke, and we decided to start the fight for our rights. You know, firstly we wanted what? We wanted the federalization of the country. So each region should have its own like head, you know, its own budget, to make it fair, because it was always like that. Donbass fed almost the whole Ukraine, because it's the industrial zone, there are plants, there are factories, and I think there 80% of the Ukrainian budget was given by Donbass.
So it's the contrary of the Ukrainian propaganda saying that Donbass people are just lazy and that they cost a lot and so on.
And you know, how can we be lazy if, again, we take this Maidan? They were jumping on Maidan, doing nothing, and our miners were working, our factory workers, everyone was working, because our people didn't participate in these Maidans and so on. We were just working. But when we saw this alert that this right sector, it just appeared, you know, could come, could put their rules, of course we couldn't, you know, hide, we couldn't stay indifferent. We had to fight for our rights, for our freedom. So that's why I became the activist, and then later I became a journalist.
How many people did this protest gathered here in Donetsk in March and beginning of April, before the occupation of these administrative buildings?
Well, thousands of people. Thousands. I remember just the very beginning of this protest movement, when there were just some dozens of people, yes, maybe then hundreds, then thousands. And maybe our viewers, our public saw these films in the internet when we were marching with flags, you know, everything like peaceful protest, and there were thousands of people. I don't know how many, but I think the whole central street was full of people.
When did the war arrived here in Donetsk in 2014?
Well, in Donetsk it came later. So in April, the first military action started in, you know, Slaviansk, and I think it was the end of May when the first attacks of the Ukrainian airplanes, the first fights in the airport happened. So the 20th of May 2014. Then there were again some kind of shelling stuff on the suburbs. Again, the airport area was the hottest spot at that period of time. And starting from July, it became more serious, and in July, the Ukrainian army started to bomb their city itself, you know. Kievsky district, Kuybishevsky, Trudovsky, Petrovka, all these places were shelled. So the war came in July 2014 here to Donetsk.
So when you began your work as a journalist, it was really huge, full-scale hostilities. Did you get in the front on during this period, or were you working more behind the front line?
Well, I remember we were very close to the airport in July 2014. It was like a hot spot, but not too hot. And of course, firstly, we didn't have any helmets, any vests, anything. We were just like tourists, you know, walking with cameras, without any safety equipment, without anything. Then I remember I worked on the places of shelling, or sometimes we came to the place, you know, and there was shelling continuing. So quite serious moments, I should admit. And then I think from autumn 2014, I started to visit the front line. When, you know, their strategy of cooperation, of good cooperation between fighters and journalists and the Minister of Defense of the DPR, everything was all right. And then I started to go. Because firstly, you know, in July, if you take July, there are many journalists died because of this no coordination. They went somewhere without knowing exactly where they were going. And some of them were captured by the Ukrainians,
like
and some of them were killed, you know, like Stenin, because they were going nowhere without knowing exactly, you know. And I remember this period of time, and it was really harsh. And you know, no safety equipment, no car. You can go by bus to the. Actually, it's very, very interesting stuff. You can go by bus to the place that is shelled. So despite the shelling, the public transport worked. So you could easily take this bus and go to Trudovsky. Marinka is very close, so you can walk there, you know. I remember these moments.
Really strange, yeah, to
Yes,
imagine.
you know, it's strange, but it was like that.
And you were not afraid so much to work in such conditions.
For me, it was some kind of an adventure. Firstly, maybe I couldn't believe that it's like real. No one could believe that the war can be here in the peaceful country, you know, nothing, no threats of this, no alert before. And for me it was such a big adrenaline dose, you know, and maybe I didn't evaluate the dangers at that period of time. And I worked on this courage, I worked on this adrenaline. And then maybe some days or some weeks after, I realized, okay, I could die easily, you know, under this shelling.
Yeah, it's really easy.
But it was, you know, after.
It was after, yeah.
It was after.
On the moment you don't
think even, you know, you're just there. You say, okay, I believe in my angel that is, you know, protecting me, and everything would be fine.
Yeah.
I should work, I should share this information, share the truth with the people.
When you were part of these protesters and these activists who took this administrative building, you didn't think that Kiev would attack militarily the city?
I couldn't think about it, you know. Yeah. We thought that it should be some kind of negotiation process, you know, to give more freedom to the regions, to make referendum, you know, to federalize the country. But these killers, I cannot call them in other ways, they're killers, they're murderers. And these people, this Kiev, you know, government, this Kiev president and so on, they decided to just kill the people who don't share their opinion. So that was their reason, their motivation. And of course for us it was something incredible, something unbearable. How? How it's possible to kill the person, you know, not to listen to the opinion of this person, just to kill this person. How it's possible?
To kill your own people.
Yes, to kill the same people.
Now, you as a citizen here of DPR, you have contacts with a lot of people, and as a journalist too. How many % would you say of people here would like to come back to Ukraine?
To come back to Ukraine?
Yeah.
I think very, very few people can say like this. And these people were not here during these military actions. They were somewhere in Ukraine, hiding their asses, or maybe in Russia, and now they come back, say that everything is shit, everything is bad, and they want to come back to Ukraine. But such people, I think they are very few.
You think how many
less
percent?
Than 1%.
Less than 1%.
Yes,
yeah.
because every person that was here during these military actions of 2014, of 2015, of course they cannot come back to Ukraine. It's impossible to come back to their people who are killing your family, who destroy your house, you know, who spoil your career, your life, everything. It's impossible. Because now Ukraine is a maniac. It's a maniac. It's a real terrorist killing the people. How can we live? Yeah, if to compare with a family, how can you live with such maniac like a family? It's impossible.
Yeah.
Because the maniac, even, you know, smiling to your face, one day will put the knife into your back. That's it.
Because that's some kind of the, you know, Western propaganda saying that people here are taken into some hostages by the terrorist government of DPR and LPR, and so yeah, it's to show a little bit that it's purely crap. So
no, it's some disaster in minds. I think how their people here can be called terrorists. We do not make any terrorist acts. Nothing of that kind. No kidnapping, no bombing, nothing. How we can be called terrorists?
It's nonsense. Completely nonsense.
I cannot understand, really.
For the moment, the Minsk agreement are still more or less on, but we have seen recently an escalation of the situation with an increase of shellings, increase of victims, the assassination of the commander Motorola. How do you think the situation will evolve here in the next weeks or months?
Well, it seems to me there will be the escalation because there are all the signs of it, the shelling, even in the morning, early in the evening, and we can hear really big calibers working from the Ukrainian side.
Yeah.
And
even yesterday evening, they didn't wait for the night. We could hear
the
really
house was trembling,
Yeah.
And I can see that the Ukrainian army and all these mercenaries are getting more and more impudent, They behave in such way that we can do everything, and okay, you will follow your Minsk agreement and you won't answer. And because of this, they are becoming more and more aggressive. And of course we should take into account the American elections as well. And I think it can also somehow influence their possible escalation. And again, this ceasefire regime, it cannot be for all the time, because it's not peace, it's not war, it's some kind of the middle. And this fragile peace, this ceasefire regime can fall any minute. And it cannot be the whole time, And I think we always have to be ready for the war. Like the Latin said, civis pacem para bellum. So we have to be ready for the war. And I think only in war we can liberate the rest part of their Donbass.
Yeah, which is a pity, because the Minsk agreement prepared a political solution, but
Poroshenko will never
implement.
Maybe even not Poroshenko, but his environment. They will never implement these agreements. How can they give, freedom to Donbass? How can they give this amnesty? But again, amnesty. Why they should give the amnesty for us? They are criminals. They are killing people. Thousands of people died because of them. It's some surrealistic pictures for me.
Some people in Western countries say that here are the people who died, including the one who died in Makiyivka on Thursday night. They were killed by the Russian army. It's the Russian army here.
I'm living here. I have been living here for a long time, and I have never seen the Russian army. Maybe they're transparent, I don't know.
Invisible, they're
invisible.
Like Harry Potter with his cloak.
But
how do you think in the long term it will end? Do you think there will be created a Novorossian state, or will the DPR and LPR integrate back the Russian Federation?
Well, I think there are different possibilities. Of course, this conflict will last. It's not 1, 2, 3 years conflict. It will last because it needs time. Of course, it's clear. And I think it will be Novorossia. One day it will be Novorossia, like there, maybe like the part of like Chechnya, maybe, like the part of the Russian Federation. But of course, it won't be Ukraine anymore. And truly speaking, I think that like in the Ukrainian anthem, Ukraine will die very soon. And can you imagine a country, which anthem starts with the line, Ukraine hasn't died yet. So I'm sure it will, it will, because all these processes that are already taking places, they will somehow, corrupt it from inside.
Yeah, the problem of Ukraine is that it's in an artificial state created by the USSR, and as I said already in other texts and interviews, if they want to push the decommunization to the very end, they have to dissolve the country, because the country was even created from scratch by the USSR, by the communists. So, it's an artificial creation which will end as all artificial creations get back to nothing.
Absolutely artificial nation, with this fictional history and so on. So Russian people were brainwashed, and now they're jumping on Maidan. I have no words,
What would you like to say to our Western audience? What would you like to say to the people from Europe, from Great Britain, from America who will see this video? What would you like to tell them about the situation here, and or some recommendation you would like to give them?
Okay, firstly, I can say that people, please use your own brain. Do not believe in what the television and mainstream mass media tries to tell you. Don't believe it. Try to use your own logics, everything. Try to think, because when you think, you can understand lots of things. Just don't eat that crap that this mass media is giving to you. I think it's the main message. And another step that I would like to emphasize that, government and people, there are two different things. And I know that there are lots of very good people in America, in European countries, and we cannot say that we should destroy America or something. No, it's not okay at all, because the government is not equal to the people. So people are a people, and everyone should be a friend, It should be like very big friendship among all the nations and all the peoples. And only governments try to make these wars and conflicts in their own interests, for money, power, and so on.
Yeah, very wise speech. Thank you, Katya.
Thank you.